Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera, where today I am making a video about Ricoh Ricohflex twin lens reflex or TLR cameras. I began selling these in my Etsy and eBay stores about a year ago, and they've become quite popular sellers. Actually, like some of the other cameras I sell, I tend to sell more of these than I can find to sell. And I'm making this video as kind of a guide to those who may have bought one of these cameras and need some information as to how it works, and also for those who might be shopping for a TLR camera and would like a little bit more information about the different options available. Ricoh produced a huge number of twin lens reflex cameras, particularly in Japan, and they were classified into two main types. There was a rather inexpensive line of TLR cameras, which were sold mainly in Japan, but were also exported to other countries. And these are identified by their smaller size, a very simple lens hood system, and also the gears around the viewing and taking lens. The gears engaged each other, and if you turned one lens one way or the other, it caused the other lens to turn the same way. So this allowed you to the lenses to focus accurately together on whatever you were focusing at. But in the mid-1950s, Yashica began to do really well with its twin lens reflex cameras. The Yashica cameras were very well made. They were the same dimensions as the popular Rolleiflex cameras, and Yashica was selling them like crazy all around the world. So Ricoh decided to engineer and produce a camera to compete with the larger Yashica Flex cameras. And they called them the Ricoh Diamond series twin lens reflex cameras. On some of the cameras which were exported, you'll see the name Dia on the box or Diacord. And some of them have names. Instead of saying Ricohflex on the top, they'll say Diacord. The Diacord cameras were generally made for export and sold in America and Europe and other places, where the ones that say Ricohflex were generally sold in Japan. They were really high quality cameras, and were quite comparable to the Yashica in terms of quality. The Diacord or Diamond series evolved through a few different design variations. These are the later model versions here, and they're kind of identified by the simplified controls and the film counter assemblies, where they have a film counter window on the side, rather than some of the earlier ones which had a simple winding mechanism with a counting ratchet located outside. These later Diamond or Diacord cameras were more technically advanced. This camera here is just a normal Ricoh Diamond or Dia, and this one here is a Diamond L, and the L stands for light meter. These two cameras are virtually identical, except that the L, of course, has the light meter and a few other features or external differences, mainly due to the addition of the light meter. Both feature the same 80mm f3.5 lens and the same range of shutter speeds, and the same focusing system. They have this kind of like airplane wing focusing system, which actually works really well. And it's more, I guess it's more reliable than that which you find on the Minolta Flex and Minolta Cord cameras. I often find that the Minolta cameras, the lens helicoids become frozen or broken, and sometimes the focusing tabs come off. I haven't yet seen that problem in one of Ricoh's cameras. And the Yashica cameras, particularly the C model, can sometimes develop a lot of play in the focusing wheel and the front, I guess, lens movement or lens board can move around. And though the cameras still tend to take good pictures despite the play, they won't work as well as cameras where the play is within specs. Once again, this is a problem which I don't see on the Ricohflex cameras due to this focusing design. The light meter on the camera, on the Diamond L, you simply push the nameplate to the side and it pops open, and this is for low light positions. In standard light you can just leave it closed like that, and there are slots inside which allow the light. And then you have the meter gauge here, and what you do is you line up the needle to what it to the number on the gauge, and then you adjust the aperture and shutter speed until you get the matching EV number here in the top. The regular diamond or Ricohflex is quite simple. It just has a readout for the aperture and the shutter speed on the top. Now the Ricohflex didn't have like the Rolleiflex style dials, which came on, of course, Rolleiflex cameras and the later Yashikaflex cameras, but they're still quite easy to use. You just turn the dials. This one here operates the aperture, and the one on the other side here operates the shutter speed. And the window on the top of the lens allows you to look at the settings without actually having to take a look at the front of the camera to find out what the settings are. So they're quite simple. And they have the same viewfinder which you find on the Yashica or Rolleiflex TLR cameras. You pop it open and then touch the door on the sports finder to pop up the focusing loop. And for sports or action focusing, you can push down the door and you can see the small window in the back. By lining that up in the center of the large window, then you can take action shots without having to look through the top of the camera. You can just follow the action and shoot quite quickly. This works good if you have the camera pre-focused or if you're shooting at moving objects at infinity. The winding system is here, and you just wind it and it locks at each exposure. When it gets to the number, it will wind until it gets to the particular number if you have film loaded. When it locks, you push the button to unlock it and then you can turn it to the next exposure. Loading the film is quite easy on the Ricohflex, and it's pretty much the same as you find on any other twin lens reflex camera. You turn the dial here to unlock the claw which holds the film door shut and pop it open. You would insert your roll of film here, and take-up spool goes on the top, like so. It's quite an old camera. It has a metal film spool in it, so that gives an idea of how long it has been since this camera was last used. You pull up the paper leader on your 120 film, pull it across the film chamber, and feed it into the slot here, and then turn it until the red arrows, or the black arrows which cross the paper film back, line up with these small arrows here at the bottom of the film chamber. When the arrows are lined up, you close the door, push down the foot, and then turn the dial clockwise to lock it. And then you simply turn the winder until it comes to the number 1 position, and you'll see it locks. And then you are ready to shoot. Pop open the finder, the focusing loop, select your shutter and aperture speed, and then charge the shutter. On these, the shutter charging system on the L model is a little bit odd. You have to pull it to one side, and to release the shutter you can depress the shutter button, or you can simply pull it the other way. So it actually has 2 shutter release buttons on the front. The earlier, or the other Ricohflex camera, some of the diamond models have the bottom charging and shutter release lever. This one here has the same system you would find on the Yashikaflex camera. You just pull down the charging lever and the shutter fires. It's quite simple. These are really interesting cameras. They're very well made, and though they were not as popular as the Yashikaflex cameras, I find them really comparable in terms of quality. And in particular, the L models with the light meters are really well made. And so far, every single one of these which I've ever found, the light meter still works in it, which is really odd, because with other camera makers, it's usually the opposite. It's really hard to find an old camera which still has a working selenium light meter. So anyway, that's it for my video about the Ricohflex TLR cameras. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section below. I'll be listing these cameras for sale shortly on my Etsy and eBay stores, so if you're interested, please take a look. If you want to see more videos about vintage Japanese cameras, please subscribe. All right, thanks a lot for watching.